trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benches. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Don't forget I got memories, dead stain the whole room if I let him bleed. Shit was dark, I let this little light of mine.
Oh, there we go. Oh man. Yeah, I feel for you, bro, cause I would ask this, like, did you have, because you transitioned or you went to 5 different schools, did you have to deal with people who took issue with you because they didn't know you? Like those people who tried to because usually you always running across those bullies.
Yeah. And so bullies really worried me because I always could hold my own. Like motherfuckers ain't really scared me or nothing like that. You know, I always hurt people's reputations. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it wasn't even like that. It was just more so in the sense like, man, it was like you say something, whatever, dog. Like, I mean, it is what it is. But I just I either blended in by not, standing out at all, or I became cool with just people off of just sports. Like, man, shit, we used to talk sports. Like, you talk sports, people used to fuck with me off of that alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they'd hear me talk sports and they'd be like, damn, man, that's what we would do every day. We would get into these heated debates every day.
That's where Mr. DC Sports started, man.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
The legend of Mr. DC Sports.
Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where that shit originated. All right, we talk shit back then,
Hey, so let me ask you, Dre, what type of person were you, like, just growing up? Not necessarily like because as you described in high school, you were a particular way. You didn't really carry yourself like out there, and you stuck to yourself. You talk sports and shit like that. Like, what type of person were you? For example, for me, growing up, like, and even to this day, bro, like, I'm social, but I'm social to an extent. Like, my friends, or one of my friends in particular, who can describe this well, because I don't like to talk about myself for real, but he'd call me reserved, and he'll say, like, I am very social to people that I know or people that I'm actually acquainted with, but like outsiders, like literally outsiders, then I'm like, all right, I'm not you ain't gonna catch me saying much to you, type thing. So like, what type of person was you growing up?
Honestly, you kind of described me, like what you just said about yourself. Like, no, because people would always mistake me as like antisocial a lot of times. Because if you put me around a crowd of people that I didn't know, I wouldn't necessarily put myself out there. And if you came up to me and you started talking to me, that's a different story. I'm like, okay, all right, bet this person seemed a little welcoming. I can talk to this person. But like, if people ain't really seem welcoming, I had no problem standing off to the side, doing my own thing, doing whatever. You know what I'm saying? But that probably also had something to do with me going to a lot of different schools in a lot of different years. Whereas, I had to kind of, try to find a way to fit in everywhere. And by me, I was like, the easiest way for me to fit in is by just kind of not standing out at all. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just over here to the side. And if you want to come mingle with me over here, that's cool. But that was me. I was like really reserved,
It's so funny that you mentioned the antisocial word. When I was in Atlanta, we went down there with, I would call them acquaintances, because I know I went down there with my boys, the All 32 side that does the Trap or Die podcast. Like, I went down there with them, but I also knew the people we were actually going down there for, but we weren't as tight. So I called them, like, just call them acquaintances. They're still cool peoples and all that stuff. But their circle, the one thing that they said, bro, was like, I would have never known you was like this if I didn't talk to you. You come across as fucking as mean and shit. And I'm like, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, y'all serious? Like, I really look like this? Cause I just be chilling. And it's kind of crazy, bro. Like, and for them to say that now, I'm like, damn, I wonder how many times I look like this to other people. So many times, bro. And I'll just be chilling. In my head, I'm like, man, I can't wait to turn up. I can't wait to, you know what I'm saying, see what this club hitting for, all these things like that. I'm trying to get lit. And they like, this he look like he trying to fight somebody.
See that perception? Wow. Look, I got a good friend to this day. Like, me and this dude real tight to this day. But he said his perception of me in the past was that before he said a word to me, he said, man, I would never thought you was as cool as you are. He said, because, man, every time I see you, you look mean as shit. You look like you be mugging me. And in my mind, I never looked at this dude like that. I never paid attention. But it's just funny how other people's perception of you, without you saying a word to them, it comes off as,
Right. It is crazy. It is crazy. And it's crazy how similar we are in that aspect, just character or personality wise, man. Like I said when we started, there will be some moments where we try to understand each other, because obviously we know each other through Twitter. So these is one of those instances. Chaos, appreciate the follow. Appreciate you checking in. We are just about to. You actually tuned in at the perfect time. We just about to get started. Talk some Washington football. Oh, I forgot. I'm tripping. Let me go ahead and put the number in the chat too. So everybody who wants to call in can call in. All right. So where is the number? Because I always forget it. Boom. All right, here we go. So if you want to call in, if you watch a football fan or a fan of the NFC East and have questions, comments, you want to get something off your chest, make a bold prediction, all that type of stuff, number is 443-242-4479. 79, baby. Oh, you got it. How the hell you get that? Hey, that's crazy. All right, so yeah, all right, welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast. Some administrative things I had to actually start putting this in my outline, so I won't forget it. These things are important for us to show. But yes, Twitch, if you're looking at this, you're listening or watching, please follow. If you aren't, also following helps you be a part of the show, because obviously you can comment. This is a followers only chat. So we try to increase our engagement, and also obviously people who like us and want to stick around, just follow. YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Get that out the way. And yes, on YouTube you'll get a lot more clips, and outside of the full episodes you can have some comments and conversations to discuss. Like I said last week, Dre, they had issue with us talking about Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera, so that was kind of interesting. But it was still a good conversation in the comments. And in the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe. If you aren't subscribed, rate and review us, man. It is appreciated, and it helps us out. It helps all of us out, obviously, in the long run. So appreciate it. If you do it, it takes 2 seconds. It's free. It doesn't hurt. You know what I'm saying? Just knock it out. All right. Boom. That's done. Dre, you saw the game. I don't know how long. I'm not going to ask you how long did you stick around for that beatdown. The Ravens had handed us to us. 37-3 loss. Baltimore ends up getting their 20-game record of Vince Lombardi. I gave my general thoughts on Friday. A quick overview, about 25-30 minutes. I'm going to hand it to you. Again, general thoughts, overview of the Ravens and Washington football game. Not necessarily the outcome, but obviously some key takeaways in general.
Key takeaways is that I guess we don't have much of a third string. No way on the roster. So that was pretty evident. I mean, Baltimore kicked our ass from start to finish. But at the same time, like, it's nothing to overreact about. I mean, sure, it's certain things you can take from preseason. Like, it's fair if you criticize Ron in a way and you say, some of the guys, like the starters, should have been out there. Fair, even though some may not agree. After watching J.K. Dobbins go down, I don't think I necessarily disagree with Ron's decision. But with that said, I saw a lot of comments regarding the players in this game saying, this is just bad. We weren't prepared, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. But I'm like, you really can't take much. There was a collection of third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth string guys playing in this game. And a lot of times they play, well, not a lot of times, but a little bit of the game they play against some of the Ravens starters and some of the Ravens second string. Now, mind you, like I said, we literally set out first and second string across the board, like everywhere across the board. None of those guys played. So people are looking at this saying, oh, now we have no depth. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Even in the sense of if you found out you couldn't highlight one player or you couldn't identify one player that shined in this game, lesser talent can shine around better talent. So even if you take one of those guys that played, they didn't show you anything, but you put them around the Chases and the Montezes for a couple of snaps in a rotation, they can look better because they're playing next to those guys. You can't expect a collection of third or fourth or fifth string guys to just look so much better playing with each other. I mean, like I said, it's not to say that, you can't do better depth-wise. I do believe we need some depth and linebacker. It's a couple other spots you probably want a little more. Edge rusher and linebacker comes off the top of the head is places that you definitely need some depth at. But as far as taking anything important from this game, I'm sorry, I just couldn't take anything important from the game.
So, before we transition to the roster updates, let me actually go ahead and look at this account now so I can catch up on everything. All right, so before we get into the roster updates of any sorts, I think that this is a good point that you brought up when you talk about the people that we had on the field versus the people that Baltimore had on the field. Now, Dre, I got into it. What's today? Saturday. I got into it Sunday. Rep the district. Hey, appreciate the follow. Appreciate. Oh, Stu, all the watch. What's going on, Kev? I appreciate everybody checking in, man. All that good stuff. So, Kev, Ref, Washington Football Addicts, everybody. Again, if you want to call in, 443-242-4479. We're recapping right now the Baltimore and Washington game. Anything that stood out to you? Dre just mentioned the fact that essentially nothing is really there to overreact. He's not necessarily worried about the depth in a sense, just based on who we were playing. Obviously, Baltimore played their first strings for, I think, a series and a half, and then obviously ended up playing their second strings for a good portion of the game. So, Dre, now, I partially agree with you. I partially agree with you in the sense that Baltimore started off. Now, first off, they played their starters on defense until the end of the first half. Like, they played their starters on defense the whole way through on that first half. So, I'm not necessarily knocking the offense, Washington's offense, but I think where the depth part kind of grows and the concern or the eyes kind of get raised, the eyebrows, is after the half. Now, defensively, on Washington's side throughout the entire game, eventually Baltimore ended up putting in their second stringers, and some of their third stringers, and Washington still could not stop them. And they couldn't stop them in the secondary, and then the linebackers struggled as well. And that's kind of where, like, and on defensive line, I can't necessarily remember. I was so busy this weekend. I didn't even have a chance to look at the game. And it would have been pointless to look at a meaningless game back again, and they're getting blown out. So I'm gonna just say everybody sucked on all three levels. I'll just put it that way. If I'm wrong, whoever watched the game again, you tell me that I'm wrong, and I will adjust from there. But I think that the issue is the depth part. Linebackers, we understood. Matter of fact, going into the game, Dre, we talked. I said I felt like this linebacker group was top heavy. I really couldn't trust the depth there. I didn't know anybody outside of Khalid Cousin who was backing up our guys. And then the secondary kind of surprised me. Now, there was one play with Torrey McTyer. Now, he's had a really good camp. But there was a play where Torrey McTyer got beat down the sideline. However, the guy dropped the pass. It didn't make Torrey look bad because it was incomplete. But I feel like it kind of, I don't even know if this is fair. So I'm gonna just be honest with you. I don't know if this is fair or not. But he got beat down the sideline, and it kind of exposed the limitations that he has, and it's being able to keep up with some of the faster receivers. Now, the receiver that I'm talking about, I believe, is Duvernay. I think it was Devin Duvernay who beat him down the sideline on a simple go route. He struggled, but the pass was incomplete. It was a good ball by Huntley. I like the throw, but the point being is that McTyer got blessed. And it doesn't show up on the stat sheet like the ones with Troy Apke doesn't show up on the stat sheet or that like his did. Excuse me. But that's kind of where I'm at with that situation, is that Torrey McTyer, he kind of showed that he is a good depth piece. And I'm not even going to say that if you put him in the game, it's going to be trouble. I'm just saying you kind of got to be careful of who you line him up against. That's it. You got to be careful who you got to line them up against. If you got confidence in them, that's one thing. That's perfectly fine. That's up to the coaches who see him every single day. I'm only going to speak on the things that I saw, and that's kind of where I'm at with that secondary part. More depth issues when we talk about Troy Apke, and I'm going to pose this question to you. I have a question on offense too, so don't let me forget this. It's dealing with Jared Patterson and the running back situation. So I'm going to pose this question to you, Dre. Troy Apke is clearly a special teams ace. It's been stamped over the years. Like, we know that part. And also coaches stamped it too. 2 different coaching staffs stamped it. But to what degree do you weigh the fact that he's going to end up being an emergency player that has to step on the field defensively? That's the first thing. The second thing is over anybody else who can play special teams to a decent level. Like, because Troy Apke got beat all over the field Saturday, and there's no way around it. Like, if you wanted to make an impression on the coaching staff and coverage and showcasing your coverage skills, that man got beat. Like, it was terrible. Actually, okay, Ref. So he made a hot take alert. I'm gonna wait till Dre gets this one, because that's a good one. I'm gonna speak on Patterson after this. So yeah, Dre, where are you at with the safety and cornerback situation, and then on top of that, how Troy Apke played?
Yeah, this is one of those things where the coaching staff, I kind of disagree with how they kind of look at things or how they value certain players. Because I'm not sure that Troy Apke is that damn good on special teams that he gets this pass. Because like you said, what if he does have to come in and play into this game? Even if you think about it, like some people have suggested maybe keeping 6 cornerbacks, but I highly doubt you go into the game with all 6 of those cornerbacks active. So, one of those guys is going to be inactive, and it's not going to be Troy Apke if they view him as this special teams ace. So, and he's a guy that he's proven now. This is a couple of years that he's proven that he can't be trusted on the defensive side of the football. When he gets beat quite often. He also, he kind of reminds me, he's a more athletic version of Reed Dowdy, but I do wish he had Reed's smart. Okay. Yeah, I wish he had Reed's brain. I thought Reed had a hell of a football mind on defense, but I just didn't think he could play the game athletically. But that meant he couldn't take the correct angles either, and that's always Troy Apke's problem as well. It's like he doesn't know what angle to take on the field in any direction, and I just don't think the cornerback move makes him any better or any valuable on our defense. So that's why I say it just bothers me, because they view him as a special teams ace and this important guy on the field, but then you look at Hopkins and you're like, why are you keeping this guy around? If special teams are so important, yes. This is a guy who cost you games. Literally, he can cost you games, yet he's in no danger of losing his job. So that's one of those things I just don't get.
I agree. I don't get it. We talk about this competition thing with all across the board, and Rivera preached it throughout the offseason. He even preached it at the most important position, and that was quarterback. And yet you didn't bring in anybody for the kicker. And you got all these excuses ready for the kicker, and you think that's okay. Now, I think there's room to criticize Rivera in certain instances. Like, you don't have to be an asshole about it. Like, you don't have to do none of that. But at the same time, when you talk about certain situations and certain decisions, he knew about Hopkins before he got here. Regardless of to what detail he knew about Hopkins, he knew that he wasn't perfect. He wasn't even the upper echelon of kickers in terms of field goal accuracy and field goal percentage. He can kick the ball on kickoffs, but that was it. So I just don't get it. And I think he mentioned he was as comfortable as he can be with Hopkins right now. And I felt like that was a throwaway line in the sense that he's tired of talking about it. But at the same time, here's where I think that gets him in trouble. You saying something like that ends up putting yourself on a hill that you didn't have to die on. And you're going to get yourself in a situation where this team is going to need Dustin Hopkins to make a field goal that we didn't know that was important at the moment. For example, Washington is down, or matter of fact, yeah, they're down 7-0. They need a field goal to get themselves back into the game because they're struggling offensively. They finally get themselves a field goal range, kick the field goal. They end up losing. Eventually, at the end of the game, they end up losing by 2 points or less. And now you wonder why. You wonder where the extra points could have came from. And it's that one missed field goal that you kind of realize, damn, I wish Hopkins made that. Another one is if he missed 2 field goals in another random game, and you just flat out lose a game because those 2 field goals ended up playing a major factor in the points that you could have scored or used to win the game. And then you look back at it and you're like, damn, all right, this is becoming a problem. No, Ron, it's been a problem. It's been a problem, and you waited until you lost games because of Hopkins to say, all right, now we got to make some decisions. Don't put that pressure on yourself. But he chose to do it. So, all right. So, we actually got a couple comments. So, why does this fan base defend Hopkins incessantly? I took a beating from folks for saying they deserve competition. It's crazy, addicts, that I know somebody named Steve on the Hogstyle who loves him some Dustin Hopkins, and he will not stray away from his decision. And yes, T, what's going on, T? I hope all is well with you. He misses the freaking extra points and costs his games at one point. Absolutely. All right. So here's the hot take. What about the kicker that Carolina just cut, who Rivera knows? What's going on, Amani? I'm not sure. I don't know too much about that kicker, and I'll just say, put it this way, Amani, just so we can streamline it. I don't think they're getting a kicker no time soon anyway. So while that's a good question to ask, and I don't even know the kicker, I do know about a kicker who got cut, 2 kickers, matter of fact, but he's not bringing in no kicker no time soon. So it ain't really nothing. It's unfortunate, but Rivera is he's going to ride or die with Hopkins right now. So ref the district, Dre. Now it was a good joke in a hot take alert, but he mentioned, and this is the Jared Patterson discussion. He said Coach Rivera told Patterson to play bad so he can cut him and re-sign him to the practice squad without any other team picking him up. And I laughed, and I think here's the thing that kind of, it's crazy because he muddied things up. I personally think that Jared Patterson was in a position, Dre, like they were giving them all types of reps. They were giving them offense, special teams, but not only just special teams as a returner, but they were giving them reps as a wingman. I also just recently found out that's what the position was. I didn't know all the positions on special teams until literally 2 days ago. So I'm actually very surprised. But he was a wingman on special teams punt coverage. And then they put him in pass pro. They put him in all these positions, and he performed well, except for Saturday, where he had to play running back and he had to run the ball and he had to catch the ball. Everything else was fine. And I think the issue that kind of muddied things up, Dre, was the fact that he had 2 very bad drops. And not only did he have those drops, it was at one of the worst times of the year that you can have it for him, a person who hasn't made this roster, who hasn't established himself at all. But you have these 2 drops that kind of raises the question on, all right, can we take this guy seriously moving forward? Because these are easy drops. I mean, easy catches to make. And one of them could have resulted in a first down if he just caught the ball and turned his head around. So my question to you, Dre, is your opinion on the situation. And we will try to dive a little bit deeper into the depth chart and roster cuts and things like that. But right now, just Jared Patterson and the Peyton Barber situation. How difficult did Patterson make it for coaches after the performance that he had on Saturday?
Honestly, I don't think Jared Patterson was playing for his job on Saturday. I think the coaches I think he's been safe. I think what his role on Saturday was, the coaching staff wanted to see how much they can give him and how early they can give it to him. So maybe he kind of, changed those point of views coming from the coaching staff a bit, but I don't think he changed the roster status, because what he put on tape the first 2 games, I mean, as far as him making it to the practice squad, he ain't making it to the practice squad. Someone's going to sign that dude to the active roster. I mean, because he showed he could run. He just had, a bad game where, to me, and Ron Rivera also said this too. He said that Patterson was trying to make a play with the ball before he caught the ball. And a lot of people get caught on that. For a rookie, I can't ding a rookie too much in the last preseason game for that. But at the same time, like I said, from a coach's standpoint of view, I believe they wanted to see how much they can give Jared Patterson and how early they can give it to him. Like I said, maybe Saturday's game kind of, quell some doubts surrounding that. But I don't think his roster status is in doubt at all. For me, I've been saying I will go 3 running backs, but I don't think that was ever a reality. Like, I don't think Peyton Barber's going to get cut. So I think they'll go into the season with 4 running backs.
Hey, I disagree in a sense that I think it was going to be 3. Like, I thought it was going to be 3, and I think the moves, I think the moves that they were doing on the field indicated that they were trying to find ways or reasons to cut it down to 3. And I think the issue with Saturday night was that it wasn't good. Well, first off, 2 things. It wasn't good on Patterson's behalf, but Peyton Barber wasn't good either. But Peyton Barber, I already knew he wasn't good. Like I told you, I say it 1,000 times. Anybody that averages 2.7 yards per carry on the season, you are not good. You suck. You suck as a professional running back. So I knew he wasn't going to be good. But here's the thing. He was also consistently himself throughout the entire preseason, but he was also like this last year too. So it wasn't like he did anything bad to hurt his stock. It was always about who can upseat him. And Patterson was in that position on Saturday, and like I said, they were giving him a whole bunch of different roles, and he just wasn't there for it. So I think it's going to end up being 4 running backs now, as opposed to originally being 3, in my opinion. But now they're in a situation where it's going to be 4. They're going to use Peyton Barber in those situations where they can actually trust a running back. And I don't know to what degree one game can change somebody's opinion, but if they emphasize that this is a big game for Patterson, and Patterson came out and produced like that, then yeah, they gotta go ahead and make that tough decision, man. So that's kind of where I was at with it. For that.
So hold on. So Jamal, would you cut Patterson after his performance?
Oh hell no, I'm not cutting him. I'm not cutting him. You make it work. You make it work at the running back position. It's definitely going to be 4. It was either 3 or 4. But after this situation, I would have never cut him. And that's kind of where I was at with it. Like it's going to be hard to cut Patterson and think you can keep him on the practice squad. A lot of people. Matter of fact. If I could look it up, I'm gonna try to. I think he was leading the league in an NFL in rushing yards in the preseason. So it's like it's really.
See, and that's the thing. Where especially we'll be talking about him dropping passes. Now, if obviously if he stays on the roster, I just wouldn't give him that responsibility yet, even though you want to kind of telegraph what you're going to do with a player. But I would more so use him as a short yardage back for the time being. I mean, that's Peyton Barber's role right now, and I think Jared Patterson, he can go out and get 2 yards stumbling. So right now I would just keep his role as a short yardage back, and you still got J.D. McKissick as your receiving back, and you got Antonio Gibson. He's going to be catching a lot more balls out of the backfield now. So like I said, Patterson, you simplify it for him now, and then as the season go on, he gets more confidence. Then you give him a little bit more. So I mean, that's how I look at it.
I was dead wrong too, because that last game hurt him. Jared Patterson was not first. Ramondre Stevenson from New England, and then a Tennessee back and another New England back. They were up there in rushing yards. Patterson did finish. He finished the preseason with 28 touches. Ooh. That's crazy. 28 touches, 110 yards, 3.9 yards a carry. So yeah, it kind of flopped on him. Okay. So Kev said last year I could understand not wanting a vet to stunt Gibson's development. He needed reps to get his legs underneath him. I think Barber being on this team will stunt Patterson too. What's going on, Chet? Appreciate you checking in. I hope all is well with you. He mentioned Chet did. You knew I wanted Heineke to start. If Fitz get hurt, does he still the job? I think this is a good question, and then we can transition to the roster, Dre. But he said if Fitz gets hurt, that he still the job. I'm gonna hand this to you first. He's basically well, you get it. I'll just leave it at that. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. No, he could definitely steal the job if he was to get any extended action. Because obviously it would determine if he can actually go out and do better than whatever Fitz does before, this hypothetical question of him getting hurt. Now, if Heineke goes out there and consistently looks like that guy you seen against Tampa Bay last year, there's no way they'll go back to Fitz because Heineke's the younger guy, and if he does it over a stretch of games, it's believable now. Like I said, right now, what's the knock everyone has on Heineke right now? The knock is, no one has film on him. He only did it one game. It was a fluke. Now, if the coaching staff sees this over a consistent stretch of games, and if he can stay healthy in that stretch, there's no doubt he was still the job for Fitz. You wouldn't go back to Fitz after that.
Yeah. Here's my thing. Here's my thing with Heineke. Because I want to base it strictly off his skill set and nothing, no ifs, ands, or buts with this type of guy. So what I seen in the Bengals game, put it that way. What I seen in the Bengals game, he looked really good, went 9 for 9 up until that incompletion in the red zone. And that was really good to see. But he looked under duress in the pocket. He ended up escaping a few times, but he looked under duress in the pocket. Yeah. When you're facing a better team like that, when you're facing a better team in general, who has that front seven that can create some pressure, but also has solid players in the secondary. I'm not going to say that's going to be every single week. I won't say that because that's not even fair to Heineke. You're not going to see that all the time. But I don't know to what degree Heineke is going to have that composure. Now, he looked really good against the Buccaneers, and I give him credit for that, and that was one game. But for a season's worth, if Fitzpatrick was to go down, I don't know how sustainable it is because he played a little reckless. I felt like for some of those plays, and that's just the gamer in him. He's going to try and make a play. I just don't know if he's going to steal the job. I feel like the only way, and this is the if, so I kind of contradicted myself. Oh well, it's my show. I do what I want. But if Heineke was to go out and have, even if he lost like 2 or 3 games when Fitzpatrick was out, but if he was to go out there and look like 100+ passer rating, and 2 or 3 touchdowns accounted for, not necessarily always thrown, but 2 or 3 touchdowns accounted for in each of those 3 games, win or loss, there'll be a conversation for what to do moving forward. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. Oh, we got a call.
A call, but I wanted to mention while we take this call that Heineke is funny. His game, watching him play a full game is like watching a 2-minute drill the whole game because every time he drops back, it's like, oh shit, I'm in a rush, I'm in a panic. Like you said, he's under the rest of the pocket, but I think that has to do a lot with his height in the pocket, and he just feels more comfortable going off script than he is like on script.
Okay, all right, now let me make sure that we have the caller on. Okay, so that's done. All right, hello, who is this?
Yo, it's meticulous Mark P. How y'all doing, man?
Oh, Marky P, what up, boy? How you feeling, bro?
What's going on?
I'm good, man. I just wanted to call in, chime in. You know what I mean? Support you guys. How y'all doing?
Hey, I appreciate it. For those who don't know, man, Marky P is the owner, the CEO, the boss man of Antsy Up Consultants. He will be working with the Trap or Dive podcast throughout the season. For all you gamblers, all you people who are interested in gambling and don't know the details, or who are always into watching football, or you want to see which angles to play and things like that, he'll have everything Washington football for you. And you can also follow him on Antsy Up Consulting and What's the Line podcast, all that good stuff. You can follow him on social media, and he'll have a lot more than just Washington football. But yeah, P, what you got going on for us, boss?
No, I just wanted to talk about, I saw a controversial take of yours with the Terry McLaurin. Was he top 10, more near top 15? I sort of agree with you. He's probably more so near the 15th than the 10th. But guys like Justin Jefferson, I can't just put them automatic. I know he had a great season last year, but he played in that Kubiak offense, was great with the play action. And I don't know how good he'll be this year particularly. So I think Terry can definitely jump that top 10 this year. in particular. So I just want to chime in on that.
So P, let me ask you this question, man. And Dre, I want to get your opinion on this too, P. Excuse me, Dre. But I feel like my whole argument with Terry, and I'm glad you brought this up because a lot of people for some reason feel offended when I say that he's not a top 10 receiver, and they'll argue me on one or two players, and that's fine, right? Like I don't. If you want to argue me about one or two players, cool. Like that's your opinion. But here's the bottom line. If you couldn't argue with me about 4 or 5, that tells me that he's the fringe top 10 that I actually assumed he was. I didn't say he wasn't a top. Well, I did say he wasn't a top 5 player, and I also said that he wasn't a top 10 player, like a bona fide top 10 player. But if you're talking about one or two people here that you disagree with, I feel like it's fair to say that he's on that outskirts looking in. Am I wrong for feeling that way and putting that opinion out there? Where are you at with that? Do you agree or disagree with the fact that he's up there floating between 11 and 15, more so than being top 10 to top 5?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's definitely a fair assessment, especially considering he didn't really have a consistent quarterback play yet. So you can't just put him there with those top tier receivers. I saw your list of Mike Evans of the world. DK Metcalf has been pretty consistent for a few years now. D-Hop, all those guys. So I agree with that. And then I just think that after this year, I think he could definitely make that leap into the top 10. I think, this time next year is probably a different conversation.
Fair enough. Dre, where you at with it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was actually having this discussion online today as well. And I have him somewhere, like I said, on the cusp, like right on the cusp. I would put him somewhere around 12 if I had to, do rank as of right now. And you're right. Some people do get offended by this. They feel like this is some kind of threat or some kind of knock on Terry. But as I explained, I said this isn't a knock on Terry McLaurin. You just have some really damn good receivers in the NFL right now. I mean, it's really deep as far as the elite talent in the league. Now, Terry definitely has a chance to jump in that top 10 this season with his own doing. As far as he can really excel in his offense. Maybe this is the year he takes the leap. This will be, in my opinion, the best quarterback he's played with since he's came in the NFL. So he has a chance to jump that. Plus, you also, it's some older guys that's still in front of him right now that could, start to decline, like a Julio Jones or a Mike Evans. I'm thinking about those type of guys that Terry could probably leapfrog this year. But right now, I have those guys above Terry. And like I said, Terry's right on the cusp with me, but I do believe Terry has the potential to jump in that top 10.
Absolutely. AP, man, first and foremost, I'm upset I missed the hoop session Saturday, bro. I'm jealous. Don't tell me how good it was. I don't need to know anything about that. Just let the people know where they can find you, and let the people know everything that you got going on, because you have some good content, and I think that it's a perfect time to plug it in.
Yeah, for sure. You guys could follow at Annie Up Consulting on Instagram, at Annie Up Consult on Twitter. To follow me personally, I'm at _Heavy P. And like Maul said, I mean, we just always, in the sports contract, the latest spreads, everything that, you want to know about, like, sports, as far as like the money side of it, from sports gambling to, contracts and all of those things. We're on it. We try to stay on all of the information. So give us a follow. What's the Line podcast, Annie Up University. Those are 2 podcasts we got jumping now. Annie Up University is pretty new. College football, so check that out.
Absolutely, P. So I'm gonna check in with you, big dog. That man Rome is dropping nuggets every single day in the main chat. So I've been paying attention to everything. So yeah, I'm gonna check in with you, P. You be safe, bro, and hopefully I catch you Saturday.
All right, cool. You guys keep doing a good job, man.
All right, bro.
Appreciate you.
Okay, boom. Oh, gotta block that. I gotta do a better job at this. All right, is it gone? Boom, there we go. All right. This is why I had to change the scene when I do these call-ins. Okay. All right. So that was P. So we got a couple things. Kev said, excuse me. Let me start with Idix. Heineke is dumpster juice. If he had a game, he would have beat out Fitz. He had a playbook head start. If he had game, not had a game. That's actually a valid point. All right. So Kev mentioned Robbie Duncan said Bernardrick McKinney is now available and he should be on a flight to DC tomorrow. Kev, let me ask you, because Bernardrick is a starter, or he was a starter, as far as I remember. Who are you benching? Because that will be the biggest question. I know the obvious answer, but the coaches like him. So I need to hear your opinion on that one. All right, Dre. So while Kev is talking to us, and appreciate you, T. I try my best. I'm humble. You know what I'm saying? I ain't about to brag, nothing like that. So there's Nikki Javala. A couple of hours ago, we have not necessarily done updates on cuts so far, so I guess it's a good time. As far as 4:35 p.m. or as late as 4:35 p.m., we have 4 cuts. Quarterback Steven Montez, John Toth, offensive tackle, wide receiver Tony Brown, and then running back Jonathan Williams. Those are the easy ones in terms of just roster decisions for coaches. We haven't gotten to the brunt things and the big deal.
Actually, Jamal, one just came through. Isaiah Wright. That's one of the bigger names. He was on the team last year. He just got cut.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So Isaiah Wright just got cut. And that kind of points to something that we all talked about, right? The receivers, Isaiah Wright has been the most quiet person in camp in terms of the position group itself, of the notable names, because obviously nobody really hears about Tony Brown or anything, but Isaiah Wright, of the most notable names, he's been the quietest. So while we knew it was inevitable, whatever that word is, I struggle. But yes, it was inevitable for Wright, and I don't know. We brought him in. We had high hopes of him to being a special teams ace in terms of returning. It didn't work out in that regard. He was quiet on offense. We used him on jet sweeps and tried to make plays and things like that. It didn't work out in that sense either. And now because of the talent and opportunities that we had on the receiver side or the offensive side of the ball, we had an influx in talent in a good way, and he just kind of got buried. So it's unfortunate for Isaiah. It is what it is. And DeVarl Lawrence as well was released, defensive tackle. And let's see if there was anybody else. Joe Walker is probably a name that I did not mention. Caleb Wilson. Wow. I missed a lot. Okay, so tight end Caleb Wilson, safety Cole Luke, Lyndon Stevens, cornerback. So yes. All right, there we are. I think we're all caught up to this point. And we can keep it pushing. All right. So there's one thing that Rivera mentioned that kind of stood out to me, and actually JP Finley wrote a really good article of NBC Sports Washington. After the beatdown from the Baltimore Ravens, he said that there was probably 4 spots that were really completely open, and after watching one more time, 2 more spots became an even bigger battle. So he says it may change, but I'll say right now, at minimum, 6 spots were impacted. And that kind of draws my attention to the roster in general, and we can get to the roster talk. Dre, I'm gonna go with you first. And for those who are looking right now, this is a done by Hogs Haven that I'm showing. It's just a template to help us go by a little bit quicker with our projections and things like that. So yes, we'll go here, and Dre, let's see the positions that you think were impacted by the Saturday night game. And then who do you think, I mean, obviously outside of the people that we named, who do you think are impacted by that 37-3 loss?
Yeah, I think you could. For me, Ron saying that, I was a little confused because I didn't know if he meant like this was amongst the team, or if he meant these positions could be open. Like, we're going to look outside of the team for these positions that are now open, So, but I think the linebackers, you couldn't have been impressed by that. I mean, first thing first, you have to look at the defense. I mean, because the defense just got destroyed. That Hundley looked like Lamar Jackson in his, MVP year. Yes. So you have to start with the defense, and I think that the linebacking crew, there's probably some guys there that, like I said, maybe like Khalid Hudson. I don't know. it's a name that he's up for discussion with. But then again, the guys behind him aren't any better. You don't know their names either. But I think one of the bigger things too is the edge rushers. I think Ron mentioned that when someone specifically asked him. He said they would like to have a vet guy there. Like they would, and that's somebody that's not really on this roster if you think about it. I mean, James Smith-Williams only been in the league, 1 or 2 years. Then you get the 2 rookies we just drafted. Tuhill hasn't been in the league that long. Then Rotimi. So you got to look at the edge rushers as possibly one of the positions that Ron was talking about. And maybe somewhere along the offensive line depth. I would, like I said, I didn't get to pay attention too much to the game because it was so dreadful. So I didn't get to see who was like looking too bad there. Tight end possibly. That could have been a thing.
That's where I was going. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because right now, and as it stands, you got 4 guys right now. You have to assume they're probably going to keep 3. So one of these guys are going to get cut. Which one between Reyes and Seals Jones? Bates is safe. I mean, his draft status is going to keep him safe. So right now, it's Seals Jones or Reyes you're looking at. And I think that would be a tough decision for the team because, I was discussing this earlier with the guy today about Sammy's Reyes is, did he put enough on tape to whereas, you can hide him on the practice squad, but that goes back to something I talked about before, and that he's a guy that could be a little tricky just because of his path to the NFL, and that the Washington football team weren't the only team interested in signing him. So you got a team that may see him on the waivers and say, oh, this would be our chance to grab him up. And he actually looked a little decent as far as blocking wise in that first game. We can work with this guy. We can develop him. So I think that's a tough decision for the team right there. Wide receiver.
Well, before you move to receivers, so let me ask you, what's the choice that you're making at tight end? Are you keeping Sammons or are you keeping Ricky? Because it dawned on me something that is a tough conversation for me to accept, but I want to see where your head is at with this one.
This is a really hard decision for me because sure, Sammy's Reyes probably has just as much potential as anybody in that position group, but potential is something that doesn't excite me too much these days with this team because I've seen it go to shit too many times. But then the other dilemma I have with this is I feel like you do probably need a veteran backup behind Logan Thomas because John Bates is a rookie. He's going to take a little time to develop. So if you kept Thomas, Bates, and Reyes, that's a really inexperienced tight end group. Even Logan Thomas himself, even though he had the breakout year he hasn't even played tight end that long. So you would have 3 guys that are really inexperienced playing tight end, even though Logan Thomas has earned some trust, but you don't trust anybody behind him at that point. So that's why I probably will lean Ricky Seals-Jones and see if you can just get lucky and hide Reyes on the practice squad. So yeah, if I had to make the choice right now, I'll lean Ricky Seals-Jones.
So I did some thinking, man, some flip-flopping admittedly. And I think that's okay, especially when a position that is so uncertain like the tight end position outside of the 2, Logan Thomas and John Bates. I'm gonna just say it. I think Sammons Reyes is overhyped. And that is me admitting that I may have been wrong. And here's what I mean by that. Yes, I think that Sammons Reyes is admittedly the most physical blocking back on the team, and Ron Rivera has stamped it as well. And it's hard to cut somebody that you value so much, especially when it comes to other players in that position where you aren't necessarily that confident in when it comes to pass protection or run blocking, right? That's kind of the facts of the matter, the truth of the matter, in my opinion. However, there was something where I read, and it was a refresher. It wasn't like something I haven't seen before, but just the conversation that we kind of overrate our players in the sense that the waiver wire people are scouting our guys like that. And I think that there's still a good possibility that Sammons Reyes can make it to our practice squad. And that's kind of where I'm at with it at this point. Like, I think it's possible for Sammons to make it to our practice squad. If you think about it, if you ask the question, what does Reyes do for you? Like, what are you missing developing Reyes for a couple of years? Like, what are you missing if we didn't have anybody behind Logan Thomas last year? You have John Bates now. You have a veteran in Ricky Seals-Jones. You cut Caleb Wilson. What are you really missing by cutting Samus and trying to sign him to the practice squad? Obviously, you want to keep him, but are you missing anything? And that's kind of where I'm at with it. It dawned on me that I may have been like really harping on him being the most physical blocker, but I don't know if that really means anything right now for these guys. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and that's also a good point too, because you got to think about the overall roster construction, that you don't want too many guys on your team that can't help you win right now. Like right now, we're not in a rebuilding. We're not expected to be rebuilding or anything. So I don't know if it makes sense to keep too many guys that can't help you win right now. I don't think Sammy Reyes is a guy that right now, as it stands, can help you win ball games. Like I think he's still very inexperienced at the position. And he's going to take time to develop. That's why I say I would take the chance right now of trying to stash Sammy's Reyes on the practice squad. I mean, that's just a chance you'll have to take, because I think Ricky Seals-Jones is a guy right now that's willing. He can contribute. He's ready to contribute more than Sammy's Reyes is ready to contribute to the team. And like I said, because Sammy's Reyes isn't the only guy that you'll probably have on the team right now that won't be helping you win too many games. Like there's a possibility that David Bada can make the team. Ron talked about him in his press conference. The defensive tackle, he's the international pathways player, and he's a guy that can't really help you win right now. But Ron and the staff seems to really like him. They talk about him as a guy that probably in a year and a half is going to be something. Like the play, he even compared him to the guy he had in Carolina that was under the same program, which is pretty good. So you got to think it's going to be a couple more guys like that on the team. You don't want to have a collection of guys like that on the team, because then there's too many guys that's not helping you win right now. So I think that's going to be the dilemma when you talk about Sammy's Reyes and making the teams, and especially at tight end where it's important, because you need, those position players on offense to be able to contribute and help.
Okay. So two things. DC Homer Sports. Hey, what's going on, boss man? I should have been said what's up to you. I've seen you, so I hope all is well with you. Homer said you can't let a dominant and roughing Reyes. He hasn't played football but has that raw talent. I agree. Raw talent. It's just to what degree are we valuing it versus the NFL? Like are they up there with it as well? So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Obviously, as we explained, right? And then Kev mentioned. Now, I don't know about this one, Kev, but he said Mark Bullock was saying Reyes was very far from being able to contribute, said his blocking was not great. Now, I would ask you to elaborate a little bit more in the sense that the blocking was not great. Was he talking about it against the Cincinnati game, or was he saying Cincinnati and New England, or just New England? I mean, not Cincinnati, I'm sorry, but I meant Baltimore, sorry. But was he saying Cincinnati? I said it again. You get it. I'm not repeating myself for a third time. But yeah, so let me know what he was saying specifically. Let me know what he was saying specifically if you can, and we can try and get there. Because if he was just saying the New England game, I would have some pushback on that. But if he's talking about a collective effort, Baltimore and New England, I'll chalk it up to him, because I've known Mark for a little minute. He does look into the film thing, so like that. All right, let me close out the cap, because we do have about 5 minutes left, Dre. So tight end, running back, quarterback. Are you keeping 3 tight ends? Are you keeping 3 quarterbacks? Are you keeping 3 running backs? Obviously, we had the running back discussion, but I just want to put a lid on those 3 positions. What are you doing for those 3? 3-3-3, or are we changing it up a little bit?
I think you definitely go 3 quarterbacks. I guess you're gonna have to go 4 running backs and 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends. I think that's what's that 7, 13 and 16. That's 16 guys, right? So, but you can go one more at one of those other positions. Maybe you keep 4 tight ends. Maybe that's possible, because you got to think you're going to probably keep about 8 offensive linemen. And the way I see it, you always keep around 25. You keep about 25 to 26 guys per side, or whatever.
Yeah, special teams always going to be 3.
Yeah. Right, special teams always 3. So you either gonna have 24 or 25 guys on the offense because they usually go one over on each side or whatever. So it's possible you keep. I guess, I mean, that's something to think about too. I guess you could do 4 tight ends if you look at it like that. If you're saying I'm gonna keep 25 offensive players, you have room to sneak in another position. So it's either, are you going to keep an extra wide receiver or would you keep an extra tight end? And that's just a subjective thing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go 3 tight ends. Now, preferably I would say 2 quarterbacks. But I don't think they're confident enough to make that decision. I think that they don't trust either backup to be healthy enough to really
Exactly.
keep 2. So I think I say 2, and that's my personal opinion. But realistically, 3 tight ends, three quarterbacks, 4 running backs. So again, 3, 6, 10, and then the tight end. I mean, receivers, 6 receivers. Terry, Diami, Adam, Curtis, Cam, and it'll come down to AGG or DeAndre or Dax.
So who you keeping at that 6 receiver spot between AGG, Dax, and DeAndre? Who you keeping?
I'm keeping AGG.
Okay.
Now Dax, I actually think he came on strong. Like his last 2 games was pretty impressive. And he showed some athleticism that I wouldn't say that he needed to display, but actually I take that back. I would say that he's had some athleticism that some people may have not known that he had. Some good catches, some ability to adjust to the ball, and I was impressed in that manner for Dax. So I say he came on strong, but AGG, you're talking about what, a 4th round draft pick from last year who kind of got off to the wrong foot with Washington, and the fan base in general. So they want to make things right. And Dax, while he had some versatility in the sense where he can play special teams as a returner. AGG can also play special teams too and coverage. So there's things that they got going on where they have to make those decisions. And I think that AGG, while we're talking about the 6 receiver spot, I think they would rather keep him, the 4th round pick, who has ton of potential in the sense that he can be their big play guy in certain situations, regardless of if he can't get off the press or not. Like, they don't care if he's strong. Like, he'll find that strength to get some type of separation.
Right.
They'll probably lean his way for this year and hope that they can stash Milton on the practice squad. That's kind of where I'm at with it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I would go AGG just because I believe. Like I said, I think he still has a little bit of ways to go. Like, you still want to see him, start to develop some kind of consistent separation at some point. But at the same time, he's starting to look better. He looks like he's getting some sort of the NFL ways, because last year he just looked like he had no clue on the football field at all. Like, I mean, he got injured for a little bit, but even when he was on the field, it's just like he didn't know where to be on the field, and he just, didn't look like an NFL wide receiver. But this year, the few games or the preseason games he's played in this year, he's actually made a name. I mean, his name has been popping up, not even just in the preseason games, but in the practices as well. Like, you've been hearing AGG making this catch or AGG doing this. And a lot of the times, like, it's kind of like in a bully type of way he's getting it. Like, he's winning those one-on-one battles. Like, even though he may not be getting the separation, but he's winning the battle of catching the ball with the receiver on him, which is, that's okay. So, I mean, he's a guy that will probably excel in the red zone. Maybe that's a role they'll have carved out for him if he's the 6 wide receiver. So, like you said, he can play special teams as well. I'll keep him and see if you got something there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So quick thoughts on defense. Just to close a couple things out. Kev mentioned that Mark said, we're talking about Reyes here. He said that he's shown willingness as a blocker, but mental mistakes with knowing his assignments. Mark was talking about having a hard time believing Ron could trust him if Logan or Bates would become injured. Although we did run out Hale and Hinchages out there for a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
For a while, a couple of years ago. Second thing is, because we're transitioning to defense, I asked Kev a while ago who would he end up replacing or moving around if we were to get or show some interest in Bernard McKinney, and he mentioned John Bostic is playing the Will Compton role. Although he is a good presence, I would set John down in a heartbeat. Wow, I mean, yes, we would set John down in a heartbeat, right? But first off, is John gonna rock for that, which would also impact the ability to have depth at that position. Washington could easily cut him or trade him to a team that he wants to go to, or just to get some compensation. So we will be bringing in Bernardrick, a person who really don't fit with the defense, and then we will have to make sure that it works before week 1, which is less than 2 weeks, or about to be 2 weeks away for Washington. So while I agree, I think John, like we asked this question too a while ago, Dre, a couple weeks ago. When are they going to start like considering John Bostic to be a liability in a sense? And I didn't ask it directly like that, but a lot of people don't really see John Bostic's job being affected or impacted in 2021. And I kind of agree with him. So it's hard to try and make that switch right before the season starts. And then having John to also be okay with it. I don't really know about that one. Okay. So defensively, last couple things, man, before we get up out of here. I guess I'll ask in a more broader perspective. Jeremy Reeves. I asked this question on Twitter, matter of fact, too. Jeremy Reeves, Derek Forrest, Troy Apke. Who are you cutting? Who are you keeping? And this is assuming that you can automatically put somebody on the practice squad for the sake of this game. But who are you putting on the practice squad? Derek Forrest, Jeremy Reeves, Troy Apke.
I put Forrest on the practice squad for sure, definitely. I would keep Jeremy Reeves regardless. I think he's a guy you keep around because if you still look at our safety group, you got Cam Curl, Collins, and Bobby McCain. You know, those are your 3 safeties. But I still see Bobby McCain as the only true free safety of the group. Like, he's the true, deep ball guy. And after that is Jeremy Reeves. Like, I think Jeremy Reeves is the closest thing to that. So I wouldn't get rid of him just for that alone. He would be one of my top 4 safeties on this team. So, but, I think it's going to be a situation where you probably end up keeping 5 because they feel like DeShazer Everett as well on special teams. But, yeah, I definitely cut Troy Apke, practice squad for us. Keep Jeremy Reeves.
So this is funny, man. Dre, you gave the answer that everybody damn near gave on Twitter, man. Cut Apke, practice squad for us, keep Reeves. And admittedly, we all have that bias against Apke. And I'm not saying y'all are wrong, and I'm not saying I'm wrong because I have that bias against Apke. I don't want to see him on the field defensively. Special teams, okay, but I don't need to see him on the field defensively. So I think the bias does exist, and I think it's okay. I think something that we aren't necessarily considering is the fact that 2 things. One, Reeves hasn't really done much at all to warrant himself a roster spot. Secondly, there's a potential to even keep Reeves and Reeves and Apke if they wanted to, because Forrest just got hurt before the preseason game on Saturday. He didn't play. He had a hamstring issue. So if they wanted to put that man on the short-term IR, they can do just that and be perfectly fine. 6 weeks or something like that? They can do that, or they can do long-term and just call that a red shirt. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't understand why anybody would keep Forrest on the roster. There's been projections of him making the final 53, and that's one thing that I vehemently disagree with. There has been nothing in the 2 games that he played that showed me he understood his assignments, and secondly, that he was really confident in the game or coverage scheme or whatever that he was playing. I don't think he was confident at all, and the game was just moving a little bit too quick for him. In my opinion. And that's kind of where I'm at with Forrest in a general sense, man. So I don't even understand. I don't care about the roster thing, like the draft picks. We always understand that coaches prefer to keep their draft picks over undrafted or previous regime players. But at the same time, this is the same regime who's acknowledged that they will cut ties with their mistakes if the draft picks turn out that they can't play. Now, I'm not saying that they get rid of Derek Forrest. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example that they wouldn't hesitate to put him on the practice squad or IR if they feel like he is not they're not confident enough in him, the individual, to really back up anybody, because they're only going to keep him for special teams. That's all they're going to keep him for. So what's really the argument behind keeping Derek Forrest on the roster when you can IR him and then also keep Reeves, Everett, and Troy Apke on the roster? So that's kind of where I was at with it. What do you think?
Well, as far as that, yeah, no, I would hope the coaching staff doesn't wait too late to admit a mistake. So, and like you said, Forrest hasn't done anything to show that he's ready to play at this level right now. And the thing is, it's another game against him. So right now, if you were to keep him on the roster in any kind of way, that's taking a roster spot for somebody that can help you out right now. Like, I mean, I don't even think he's close to right now contributing, helping you out. So I would definitely look at that. I didn't even think about that. Like, I would definitely look at the short-term IR for him. But like I said, right now he just hasn't warranted making the team at all. Like, he looked pretty bad out there. Just like I said, not close. But while we're on the subject of defense, there's another topic that did come up today. As far as Tim Settle's name, they were saying Tim Settle's name.
I want to talk about this.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Right. So people were calling. Well, people allegedly, there's been teams calling for Tim Settle's availability, and I got into a nice little discussion today on Twitter about that. Where some people are like, oh well, we shouldn't trade him. Why trade him? But I'm like, why hold on to players and not get value for when you can? I'm not sure what Tim Settle's value is right now. I mean, if I had to guess, I would think he's probably somewhere in the 5th round value. So, and I imagine that's why if there were calls that he hasn't been moved yet, because I probably wouldn't move him for a 5th round. I would try to see if I can get a 4th rounder. So, as I was telling people, Tim Settle, in my opinion, it'd probably be more wise to wait till around the trade deadline to see if you can move him, see if he can increase his value a little bit. Because I'm assuming, like I said, if they got calls, that must mean that they didn't hear anything they liked. So they're going to keep him around for now. But I also would not hold on to him and get nothing in return, because in my opinion, I think his contract's up after this year. I think Tim Settle can go somewhere and start.
I think he's in his last year.
Yeah, I think he can go somewhere and start. So I couldn't imagine him coming back here to be a backup again.
Okay. So 2 things. First and foremost, Cafe, what's going on, boss man? I hope all is well with you. We are wrapping up our show. And I will ask your question as the closer. That's a good one. Quarterbacks, we always love quarterback conversation. And watching football news, man, what's going on, boss? I hope all is well with you. Appreciate the follow. And just to close the lid on Forrest, Derek Forrest, Dre, watching football news mentioned that Forrest needs to make. Oh yeah. Forrest needs to make the roster to be placed on short-term IR first. So if he is placed on IR before the season, he stays on IR the whole season. So that's a decision that comes down to the coaches. Obviously, if we're talking about short-term IR, then they need to worry about making that move after he makes the team. So that'll be something to follow and see how they play that situation. All right. So in terms of Settle, I did see this on the timeline, and my first thought was I wasn't even interested in trading him. Like, I think, and I think the issue with me isn't necessarily like trying to get value for him while you can, because I think a lot of people think like that, and that's perfectly fine. And I used to have that thought process, and I still do have that thought process, but it's selective now. What benefit does trade and settle do right now? What does that do for you and your defense when you have a really good unit, and you don't necessarily know yet how Settle can play on your team right now, given that Matt Ioannidis is back and coming from his injury. He's clearly going to be playing a lot of snaps over Tim Settle. So how do you kind of value that, and how do you value Settle and things like that? So when I look at it in that regard, you brought up a variable that I didn't anticipate, which would be like entertaining it at the trade deadline. See how much see how they can work him into the defense, see how much snaps he can get, see how productive he is in those snaps. And if things don't work out in terms of trying to get him the minutes that he needs, but also the defense is still playing really good without him getting those minutes, all right, go ahead and make that move at trade deadline. Outside of that, if the things is working well, the rotation is working well, the flow is good, everybody's being productive, everybody's happy and content right now, knowing the situations and the roles that they're in, keep him. there's nothing wrong with letting him go. Like, you're not losing anything by trading, or you're not. It's nothing significant by trading Settle, because you're not going to get like a second or a third for him.
Right.
And I think you'll be perfectly fine by contributing and having him contribute to what could be one of the better defenses in the NFL. That alone is also being attached to his resume. So my initial thought was we don't need to trade him at all. But I think the alternative that I actually agree with, Dre, is that yes, trade deadline is probably the best bet. You would rather see how he plays in this defense first, given that Ioannidis is back, and how you can split the time up with everybody. And if it doesn't seem to be working out, you give him that opportunity to start elsewhere or get more minutes elsewhere, and that opportunity to earn that extension with 9 weeks to go in the season.
Yeah.
And see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I wouldn't just trade him for anything. Like, if you're talking about a 5th round pick, no, thank you. Like, I'm not interested in getting a 5th round pick. As you can see, we're probably about to cut a 5th round pick. Yeah, so that's why I said I wouldn't move him for a 5th. Now, if you're talking about a 4th round pick, then I'm interested. Like I said, I don't think you're going above a 4th round pick. Somebody just pointed out, I think a guy from the Bengals got traded today, defensive tackle, and he was a 1st round pick a couple years ago, and I think he just netted a 3rd or 4th round pick. So I don't think Tim Settle's going to get you that right now. So I think, like I said, his value isn't where I would entertain a trade right now. That's why I say now, if it comes out that he can increase his value a bit, but it's also not going to take anything away from the team, like you said, then I would entertain it again around trade deadline. But again, I wouldn't just trade him for a 5th. I'd rather just let him walk, at the end of the year, after the year, for that case. But I wouldn't just trade him for a 5th or some easily 6th round pick. Okay. Unless he's a malcontent.
Yeah. And I don't see that in Tim. Like, he's been quiet the entire time he's been here, good and bad. So I think we're in good position. Fingers crossed, because you never know. Like, contract years, people kind of act differently. So it is what it is. But
true.
We'll see.
Quentin Dunbar.
Yes, absolutely. The guy who, oh Lord, the guy who caused the fracas, and the man didn't do nothing since he left. Didn't do nothing. All right. So the last thing, Dre, and we'll close it out with this one. Cafe hopped in the chat, asked a question about Watson. That there is rumors about Miami being interested in Deshaun Watson. And in turn, that would also make Tua available for trade. I think I will ask you, or I'll just ask you his question flat out. So if Watson does indeed go to Miami, would Washington be interested in Tua? Where are you at with that one? Did you ever think about that over the rumors, I guess? Because I did see this at one point, so I don't know how true it is, but did you ever think about that and how Tua can fit here?
Yeah, no, I actually did. Because my thing is, and this is probably a vote question, but I think Tua's going to have a big year in Miami this year. So now I'm not sure if the team would be interested in making that move, but I damn sure would be interested in Tua. I mean, I think, I don't know. I just seen him play in preseason, and something looked a little different about Tua this preseason. I think this guy's going to have a big year, because you got to think last year, again, he's one of those rookie quarterbacks that didn't have a preseason, which like people like Herbert didn't, and it didn't affect him. But Tua, he was coming off that hip injury too. So, you got to wonder if that kind of affected him in his rookie year. I don't know if there was still some lingering effects on that. But Tua is I would definitely be interested in taking a flyer on Tua and trading for him if Miami was to take that all-out risk and go with Deshaun Watson. Because like I said, come back to me this year, because you heard it here. But I think Tua's going to have a big year for Miami.
I think so too. Now, big year, I don't know how that's going to I don't know how that'll transition into wins for Miami. But I do think last year he was, for whatever reason, I don't even know how to describe it, but he was not as sharp as Fitzpatrick. I mean, obviously so, right? That's we're talking about a veteran and we're talking about a rookie, but he wasn't as sharp as Fitzpatrick. I think it's the coach's fault that put him in that position to get exposed in that manner. Obviously noticing the differences, and they just had to force their hand. I think Washington will be a good spot. But I also think that if Deshaun was to get traded to Miami, Tua would be a part of that trade. I don't think he's going to be available. That they're going to try and figure out anything like what's next for Tua. No, I think Tua's going to be a part of that trade, and Tyrod they're not gonna marry themselves to Tyrod in Houston, because he's the starter right now, and behind him is David Stills or David Seals or David something, the guy from Stanford that I was actually interested in. So they're not gonna marry themselves to Tyrod, and it's unfortunate, but the last 2 years, or the last two times Tyrod got the starting job, he lost it to Josh Allen and lost it to Justin Herbert. So Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield and what's his name? Justin Herbert. So I feel for him, but this will be right on brand for another situation where if something like this was to happen, Tua would actually end up in Houston. So I think it'll work out if Washington was to somehow try and bring him in here, but at the same time, realistically, Washington would be stuck with Fitzpatrick. It wouldn't even make sense for them to trade for a quarterback this late in the year, even though it's the start of the season. I don't think they do it. And then secondly, I think Tua will be a part of the trade. So if he's not going to Houston, it would be part of a 3-team trade, which is also rare, but it's still possible for somebody to come in and snag Tua a part of that deal. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's an interesting idea, and it's a good question, Cafe. Playing a realistic game is just hard for me to kind of really dive into it a little bit.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a discussion, and I would definitely, if it was up, the decision was up to me, I would definitely take a flyer on Tua here.
Absolutely. All right, Dre, man. As always, appreciate your time. And I don't know why I'm saying that to you, given that you are a part of the show, my brother. It is what it is. Absolutely. So Washington football, I appreciate the good words, man. And I appreciate you checking us out and giving your time this evening to see what the Twitch experience is about. For those who are listening, watching, we won't be here Tuesday. We won't be here Wednesday. We will be back Thursday. Michael Phillips of the Richmond Times-Dispatch is expected to join us as we just recap everything that happened in the week that was Washington, but also a slight preview with the Chargers, against the Chargers. So obviously we are preparing after the 53 is set. We're preparing for week 1. And that's where we're at. We're out in the season, man. I'm looking forward to it. We are talking football for 5 months. I love it.
Yes, sir.
5 months,
man. Tired of it.
Absolutely. All right. So for those who, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. Amani, you brought up a good point. For those who listen to the podcast, though, appreciate y'all for watching. Appreciate y'all for listening. We will be back Thursday. And then for those who are still in the chat, I'm going to get ready to set a raid. Now, I just started doing this Saturday, so I'm still brand new to this, but I'm showing some love to some other streamers that actually is in the same content set of content creation that we're in on Twitch. So I'm about to go ahead and set a raid for us, and it's as simple as just showing some love, man. And making sure that we're all set in that regard. So this is a guy who actually got me hip to the get out right. He got me hip to the raids, so I'm about to send us that way and keep it pushing. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Boom. All right, and we're gonna start the raid right now. Boom. All right. So again, back Thursday. For those, just stick around for Own Dog. He was cool people's, man. Showed love out the random. And he's cool people. So be back Thursday. Stick with him for 5-10 minutes, man. If you like him, follow him. All that good stuff, man. Appreciate y'all.
Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga. Don't forget to mention. Whole hard.